In this lecture, let's learn how to design the login form which we have up over here. So right away, you will be able to see that the tailwind styling isn't applied to this login form. And that's because if you actually go to the page which is login.html, you will be able to see that that particular page does not extend from the base template. So first of all, the first and foremost thing which needs to be done is that you actually need to go ahead and extend from the base template. So let's do that right away. So I'll go ahead. And instead of directly having the form, I would have the extends tag. So I would say extends, that's going to be from users/base.html. So whenever we extend from this particular template, you need to have the block body and end block tag as well, because that is the tag which we have included in the base template. So here I would say block body, and then also let's have the end block tag as well. So here I would say end block. Okay, so once we have this, now if I go back to that page and hit refresh, right away you'll be able to see that now we have the photo app navigation bar added up over here along with the different links which we have. But you'll also notice that as soon as we apply the tailwind styling to this particular form, this form kind of fades away and we no longer actually have the input fields clearly visible over here. So in order to now style this thing up, let's head back over here to VS Code, and first of all let's go ahead and let's style a heading or add a heading to the top even before we actually start creating a form. So here I would add a normal H1 heading, and this heading is going to say something like login user. We could also use an emoji over here if we want to. So as we are logging in a user, I could use an emoji of a person. So I'll search for person and I'll add a person here, and now if I go back, this is what it's going to look like. Now this doesn't at all look like a heading, so let's make it look like a heading by using tailwind. So let's make the font a little bit bigger. So here to this heading I would add a class, and let's make the text larger. So I would say text dash 2 times XL, which means that it's twice the extra large size which is available in tailwind. And if you want to see how this thing or how I have applied this class, you could simply go to Tailwind and you could search for font, and you'll be able to see what kind of classes you need to apply. So as you can see, this is what the heading looks like. But you'll also notice that this does not have any kind of margin from either side. So let's add a margin from all the sides, and let's say I want to add margin 10. I could add that, hit refresh, and as you can see, now we have decent amount of margin from all the sides. Now after this, let's go ahead and let's start designing the login page. So as far as the login page is concerned, or the login form is concerned, we have to go ahead and we have to create a div container for that form. So I'll create a div. This is going to be the starting tag, ending tag. Let's take the entire form, put up the entire form in this particular div except for the paragraphs here. And for this div, we are going to give it a class container, and we want a padding of 5 on the y-axis. So I would say py-5 here. If I go back, now it has a padding of 5 from the top. And now we could style up the form itself by adding different classes to it. So after the form method post, or even before that, you could add a class. And let's say I want the background of this form to be white. So I would say bg white. Let's say I want this form to have a shadow, which is going to be a medium shadow. So I would say shadow md. Let's say I want the margin to be 10 from all the sides. Let's say I want the width to be 2/5 of the entire available space. So I would say w-2/5. And let's say if I want the form to be rounded, I could add that as well. I want the padding on the x-axis as 8, padding on the top as 6. Now all of these things are predefined and you don't have to do anything about them. And let's also add a padding at the bottom to be 8. And then margin at the bottom to be, let's say, 4. As soon as I add all of these, now let's see the magic. So if I hit refresh, as you can see, now this is what your form is going to look like. So now it appears in a card-like format with all of these particular stylings applied to it. Now the form is actually styled up, but the fields or the form fields still look pretty dull. So let's style them up as well. So in order to style them up, right up over here, instead of rendering the entire form all at once, let's say we want to render the form field by field. So the two fields which we need to work with here are the username and password. So instead of saying form.asp, I could say form.username, and I could say form.password. If I do that, it's going to give me one and the same result. So we have these two fields, but they are not currently visible because we have not styled them. And you have to now manually add the labels because you'll be able to see that the labels have now disappeared. So let's go ahead and style them up. So first of all, let's create a div for containing the label as well as the actual field. So first of all, I'll add a label, and this label is going to be something called as username, as this label is for username. Then I would create another div after this label, and this div is going to be for containing the username input. So div, and I'll take the username input from here and paste it right inside of it. And now let's apply classes to this. So I would say class, let's say block. So this basically means that the type of this particular element is going to be block. I want the text inside of this to be gray with a shade of 700. I want the text inside this to be smaller. I want the font of this thing to be bold, and I want the margin bottom to be 2. So now if I hit refresh, as you can see, it now says username. And now let's style up this particular input field, which currently is looking up to be empty. So I'll add a class. I will add a shadow to this. I would say appearance as none. I would add a border. I would make the border rounded. And then I want the padding on the y-axis to be 2, padding on the x-axis to be 3, margin on the right to be 10. If I go back, hit refresh, now as you can see, we have a nice looking input field right up over here. And let's say if I want to make the text of this thing to be of the same color as this, I simply could copy the class from here and paste it up over here. So now if I hit refresh, if I type any text here, that's going to have the same color as this one. Now just as I have styled this particular label, I could do the same thing with the form password. So I'll simply copy this, paste it up over here, cut the form password from here, or simply change this thing to password. And let's say the label is password. If I go back, hit refresh, as you can see, we have username and password. But right now you'll be able to see that there's no margin at the bottom. So let's add margin bottom to both of these. So here, for this div, I will add a class saying margin bottom is 2. Let's do the same thing with the other div which we have. So I'll copy this, paste it up over here as well. Okay. If I go back, now as you can see, it has a margin at the top as well as in the bottom. Now let's style up this submit button because currently it looks pretty dull and boring. So in order to style the submit button, I would go right up over here, and instead of saying input, I would actually change this thing to button, type as submit, and then let's name this button as login. And let's say the color of this button, I want the color to be white, which is the text color of the button to be white. So I would add a class which is text dash white. And let's say I want the background color of this thing to be green. So bg dash green, let's say with a shade of 500. So I don't want to be a darker green but lighter green. So if I add that, now this is what the button looks like. So it has no padding here. So in order to add a padding, I would say I want the padding on the x-axis to be, let's say 5, and the padding on the y should be 2. If that is done, this is what the login button looks like, and I think that looks pretty neat. Now similar to this, let's also go ahead and let's also style up this text which we have, which is forgot password, click here to reset. So in order to style this thing up, we have to style up this paragraph which we have. So first of all, let's add a padding x to this. So padding x is going to be 10. Let's say padding y is also going to be 10. And we already have this text over here which says forgot password. And here we could also add some class to this ahref as well. So let's say I want to make the text of a different color. So text, let's say this is going to be indigo with a shade of 500. Could save this, go back here. As you can see, this is what it actually looks like. So you could customize this particular page as per your own needs if you want that certain elements need a certain amount of a property. So let's say, for example, if you think that this login button needs to have padding at the top, you could simply go ahead and do that. So for example, you could say something like, I want the margin on the top or on the y-axis to be, let's say 10. If I do that, now as you can see, that margin is added right up over here. So if you want to reduce it, you could do that as well by changing it to 5. So as you can see, we have styled the login page, and in the next lecture, let's go ahead and let's style up the registration page because it still looks pretty dull and boring. So if I go to register, as you can see, this is what the page currently looks like. So in the next lecture, let's style up the registration page as per our own needs. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.